So we have a update on our as-built data sheet. Nothing too crazy going on, but I want to go over everything. So first off, we have the square footage served for systems 1 through 5. If you only have one system, your conditioned area square footage is going to be the same as the square footage served here. Eventually, you guys will be getting divvied up numbers that'll be exact square footages of the areas being served for each system. But for the meantime, if you have 2 or more systems, you might need to break this number up manually. So say I had 2 systems. For us here in Colorado, we have basement, first floor, second floor, so I would divvy it up in roughly thirds. So system 1 would be 1400. System 2 here would be 704. That's how I would divvy something like that up. Right below it is going to be area description. Again, this is probably even more just for 3 or more systems, but the area description, if you wanted to start putting the description of where the system is actually supplying everything for. So system 1 for me would be main floor. System 2 would be second floor. Something along that lines. When you now hit save, we also moved the infiltration target up to over to here. So now you're going to have your rough, your final, your LTO, and your infiltration. We now have the targets for our duct blast back in operation based on that 1400 and 700. My targets for this house would be 56 and 28. So now we know what each one of our targets is going to be, so we can make sure that we are below our limit. The next thing that changed here is when you put in your state and hit save. Actually, it looked like you didn't even need to hit save. It's automatically brought up the box, but all of our names should be here in the Raider names now. So now you're not going to have to type your name every time. You'll just have to pick it. If you do not see your name in here, please send either your manager a email or send me an email letting me know. We will get you added in here. Also, if you have a Raider ID associated with you, you should be able to just pick that off the list now. And we're also going to need signatures from everyone. We're going to have a little signature right here so that you can select your signature as well. And then that will be in the data sheet as well for when we submit it to cities and stuff like that. We'll have a digital signature who did the inspection. With your signature, I either need an email in a JPEG form, or you can just text me your signature, and I'll crop it up and get it into the system in the size of JPEG that we need it to be. So going on down, next thing that changed is we have this level type. This is only going to be used for apartment buildings, but if you have a multi-apartment building, lowest level, mid-level is going to be all the mid-levels, 2 through 50, and then top floor. Those are just the 3 ways that we do our different modeling. Going on down, next thing that changed is we changed the wording of rim and box. So now it's rim B1, which is going to be the rim between the basement and the first floor. Again, if you guys have slab on grade, you're not going to be using this one. And then rim 1, 2, so rim between the first floor and the second floor. Also right below it is other wall type. Probably not something you're going to ever run into all that often, but in case you ever have another wall type. Now you can put in your value there. Alright, next change that got made is this ventilation actual. This is important because we need to start putting in the actual ventilation rate. You know, starting with the 2012 code, there's actually verbiage about having to meet ASHRAE 62, and that's going to be the actual ventilation rate. So, start your ventilation fan. You know, you'd have exhaust only, Lennox, well, exhaust only, probably Barone. We'll say it was 12 watts, less than 3 zones, 80 CFM. However, when I then used my fan box and went and measured it, I only got 61, we'll say. So, and this is mainly for compliance because they were starting to put in the rating. Just because it's rated at 80 does not mean that that's what it's actually achieving. So we put it right next to it now instead of down below, so that it's more intuitive of what's going on here. The other system that you guys often see besides exhaust only is going to be air cycler system, right? Where we're using the HVAC fan to pull in air through a mechanical dampener into the home. For that, you would put air cycler, the make, whatever the furnace make is. Leave the wattage, zones, and rating alone. Okay, these are all going to be calculated by your compliance person based on your static pressure reading that you guys take. Based upon that, they do a calculation and they'll get the watt draw. Because, you know, you got this 500 watt fan, we'll say, how much of that is actually being used to draw in this amount of air. Speaking of which, that amount of air now, we have a duct calculator to tell you how much air is actually coming through. So this is something you need to be getting with HVAC on, or you guys obviously can be tapping the holes yourself. But to get this reading for your air cycler systems, you need to get a pitot tube in front of or in the duct run, okay, and see what pressure it is getting. When you get that pressure, we now have a duct calculator down here. Is another one of the new things added. We only did these 4 size ducts. We probably shouldn't see any different than this, and really most of these inline duct runs are going to be 6 inches. So what you're going to do is put your pitot tube in there, get a pressure reading in pascals. We'll say it's 2.8 for this example on a 6-inch duct. Come and hit save. And it is giving us that the flow rate is 49 CFM. That means based upon that pressure in that duct, it's going to give us the flow rate through this calculator. That is going to be your ventilation actual. So what was it, 49 here? So I would come in here and put 49 into my ventilation actual. And again, leave all these middle parts blank, because those are going to get filled in by compliance, but we need to be coming up with the actual ventilation rate. It took us a while to figure out how we were going to do this, but now that we got this duct CFM calculator, now we know how we're going to do it. And then the last thing that changed here is above the duct calculator is going to be this overhang. This is something probably only Texas is going to use consistently, because they need to be accounting for the passive solar and the overhangs around of the windows around the house. However, we've probably all at least done it once or twice, and if we ever need to do it in the future for any reason, here's where we would put in all of our data for the overhangs of the windows. Besides that, those are the changes. Again, this duct calculator is pretty darn cool. And then having our targets and putting our names in is really the biggest parts of the changes here. Nothing too crazy. If you have any questions, please give me a call. Otherwise, I will talk to you all soon. Hello everyone. So I wanted to go over the as-built data sheet update that we just did. As many of you probably have already seen, we changed a few things around. The first thing here is going to be our square footage served. If you only have one system, it's going to be the same number as your condition square footage. In my case here, 2104. What this is going to do is get us our target again based on our duct blast number. Obviously we use rough here, but if you're using final or if you happen to ever use LTO, we also move the infiltration target up to here for our blower door. So the way this has worked, and eventually you're going to be getting split up square footages, but for the time being you may have to manually break this number up if you have more than one system. So we'll say I had two systems in this home. Us here in Colorado, we have basement, main floor, second floor. So I'm going to just divide it up by thirds. So I would put 1400 for system 1 and 704 for system 2. Right below it is going to be area description. Again, probably something not needed unless you have 3 or more systems, but it's exactly what it sounds like. So for mine, my first system would be the main floor and the basement. My second system would be the second floor. And again, this is just going to be descriptions on what the system's actually serving. This will definitely help you guys more out in the field once this is being inputted by energy modeling and scheduling, so that hopefully they can give you descriptions of where the system's actually feeding. So again, we got the targets working back for the duct blast now. We were missing that for a minute as we were going through this rendition, but your targets are now going to be in your duct blasts here. So for our target here, 1400 system, we had 56 as our target. 700 system would be 28, so on and so forth. Next thing that changed here is the fact that of our rater names. So you're going to have to come and select your state now. That will bring you a drop down of all the raters in your state. If you do not see your name here, please get with your field manager or send me a text or an email and let us know, and we will get you added in here so you can choose that you're doing the inspection. Also associated in here now is going to be your rater ID if you have one. It'll be there for you to select. We're also going to add in signatures so that we can have digital signatures from everyone. On that note, I need signatures from everyone. You can just sign your name on a piece of white paper and text it to me. If you email it to me, I need it in a JPEG form. But yeah, we're going to get those in so that when we submit these to the cities, we'll have a signature of the rater who had done the rating. Next, going down here, next thing that changed is going to be level type. This is going to be used for apartments only. Top floor, mid-levels, which is going to be all mid-levels, 2 through 20, and then just lowest level. And that's just the differences in modeling is why we only need those 3 distinguishers. Coming on down, the next thing that changed is going to be we moved the ventilation actual number up here instead of being down with the other bath fan ratings. We moved it up here because it's more intuitive to be right here. So when you're doing these, when you're picking your ventilation fan, we'll say for this one it's exhaust only, Brown, 12 watts, less than 0.3 sones, rated 80. However, when I get my fan box on there, we'll say the number's only 61. That's the number that compliance needs to be using, okay? Because this fan, although it's rated for 80 CFM, it's only actually drawing 61 CFM. So that's why we moved it up here. The next part that's going to go along here is the other type of system that we see most often is an air cycler system, in which we are drawing in air through the furnace using the furnace's fan. Now, compliance will do a calculation to get the watt draw because you have this, 500 watt fan or whatever that's moving the entire system. However, not all of that is drawing air through your fresh air duct. And then we have a calculation compliance does where they will figure out what the watt draw is based upon your static pressure that you got for that furnace. This is why the static pressure actually is important, amongst other reasons, on why Energy Star makes us do this test. So that's how they will get the watt draw. However, what we're still missing is the ventilation actual, which we now have a duct flow rate calculator. It's going to be right down here. This is going to be one of our new things added in. So we only have 4 different sizes of ducts. If you guys are consistently running into something else, we can put another size in here, but these should cover everything, and typically all we'll ever see is 6-inch coming into that mechanical dampener and then into the system, right? So what you need to do is have HVAC be tapping a hole for you, or you can use your punch and tap a hole yourself. Obviously the furnace needs to be running. A dampener also happens to needs to be open. So you might have to check it more than once to try to get your flow rate, because if the dampener's shut, you're not going to be getting anything. Anyway, stick your pitot tube in there. You will get a pressure reading. We now do all of our tests in pascals. Okay, so you don't need to use inches of water column for anything anymore on your gauge. You can stay in pascals for everything. Anyways, you're going to get your Pascal rating. Come and put in here. We'll say it's 3.5 pascals. Hit enter. It will give you your flow rate based on that pressure. In a 6-inch duct, our flow rate would be 55 CFM for this. Typically, it is going to be quite a bit higher than that for these air cycler systems, because again, it's using the fan, the HVAC fan, to pull that air in. So it's going to be pulling it usually in at a rate of 120 or so is a typical number. But that is now how you would get the ventilation rate for an air cycler system. You would come down here and use this new duct calculator. Another new thing right above it is going to be overhang for collecting some information about passive solar windows that are recessed. To my knowledge, only Texas has to do this consistently. However, we should all, be able to use this and understand what passive solar is for the window awnings in case we ever do need to use it. But primarily, this is going to be a Texas thing. They need to be filling this out all the time. The only other thing that changed is some wording over here in the insulation. Instead of rim and box, we now have rim B1, which is going to be rim basement to first floor. If you have slab on grade, you're not going to be filling this in. And then rim 1 to 2, which 2 to 3 would be the same as 1 to 2 as well. Whatever insulation value is being used up in those joists, usually R19. Also, right below it, we added in an other wall type. Probably will never run across something like this, but in case we ever do, we now have an other wall type. Besides that, that is all that changed. Again, now we got targets back in, got that ventilation calculator, and then putting our names in, which will save a lot of time as well. If you got any questions, please feel free to give me a call, email me. I will be here, and have a great day, everyone.